You have completed performance appraisal as well as performance management. Second bench, first girl. Yourself, my dear. How do you define productivity? Unable to hear you. How you will calculate productivity? It's a ratio between input and output. Formula for calculating it is output by how you calculate efficiency. That formula is not given in our material, sir. Standard hours divided by, very good. In terms of hours, in terms of output, actual output divided by standard output. Which one is superior of which one? Is productivity superior of efficiency or efficiency is superior of productivity? That means at the end of the day, are we concerned about productivity or efficiency? Efficiency, isn't it? Okay, Nana. So at the end of the day, the company is concerned about the overall efficiency. And to calculate efficiency, first we should know productivity. How you will define efficiency? Yes, you have explained the formula. But how you will define efficiency? When we talk about efficiency, are we concerned about quantity or quality? In fact, both. Okay, when it comes to productivity, I'm only concerned about quantity. Efficiency, we need quantity as well as. That means when it comes to productivity, I'm only concerned about how much output for a given set of inputs. But when it comes to efficiency, whether this output is maximum output or not, that's what we are concerned about. So if the output is maximum, obviously your wastage will be minimum or within the acceptable limits. Okay, so that is what we have covered in the last class. Let us go through question number 6. Am I clear, Nana? I hope everyone is able to follow whatever the content that I have explained till now. Okay, this is the first class, right? What about the earlier classes? Ram Naam Satya Hai. You were that I know. You were not there for the earlier classes. Now, what about the other classes? But I think she was there, right? Ask her. Took online classes, but were you there in online classes? So video recorded classes were given to you. Okay, so you will refer to video recorded classes. By when you will complete that? So tomorrow I can ask questions to you, right? I think I taught you in Inter, right? CA Inter or CMA Inter? CA Inter. Question number 6. Write the approaches for measurement of productivity and efficiency. Okay. So what are the different approaches available when it comes to measurement of productivity and efficiency? Basically, there are two different approaches which are available for measurement of productivity and basically we focus on productivity. Once you're able to measure productivity, automatically you can measure efficiency. Because productivity is all about output from input. Efficiency is nothing but whether this output is maximum output or not. That means first you have to measure output. Now when it comes to measuring output, we will always measure output in terms of input. We always measure output in terms of input. That is the formula for productivity. Output divided by input. Now while measuring this, how many approaches we have? We have two approaches. One is called as partial factor productivity. Another one is called as total factor productivity. The same thing is given in your material and no need to write it, okay? Partial factor productivity. Is it given there? Total factor productivity. No need to by heart anything. Here factors means factors of production. Nothing but input. Factor means factors of production. What do you mean by total factors? You will be considering all the factors, isn't it? Are you able to follow, Nana? While measuring productivity, there are two different ways of measuring productivity. One, partial factor, and the one is total factor. Factor means what? Factors of production. Factor means factors of production. If you are considering all the factors of production, that approach is called as. If you are considering only one factor of production, it is called as. That's it, completed. It's the same thing given there. Which one is more appropriate, partial factor or total factor? Obviously, because in olden days, what economists used to assume is that we used to have, we were using only one input to produce an output, but nowadays no one is using a single output. Very rarely we use single input, right, to produce an output. Nowadays we use different kinds of input to produce one output. So since you are using multiple inputs or different factors of production, it is better to take total factor productivity, or in simple terms, when it comes to total factor productivity, we take all the 4 factors of production into consideration. In olden days, because of lack of technology and everything, they used to feel that only labor is the factors of production. Classical economists, whatever the theories that they come up with, they felt that only labor is the factor of production. But as the time passed by, everyone realizes that along with labor, we need capital also. Without these two, we can't produce anything. Yes, labor is important, but along labor, we need capital also. Now, I am taking only 2 into consideration because we know all the 4 factors of production again divide into 2. What are the 4 factors of production? Land, labor, capital, organization or entrepreneur. Isn't it, Nana? Land, labor, capital. Land is included in capital. Entrepreneur is included in labor. Again, these 4 are subclassified into 2. Labor and capital. So nowadays, to produce anything, we need to use all the factors of production. That's why it will be apt to use total factor productivity. Am I clear? The same thing is covered in question number 6. As I said, I am not going to stress on each and every sentence. There are some generalized sentences. See, why the questions are lengthy? Because I don't want to exclude any sentence from the institute material. First, we need to understand the paper here. This paper is an elective paper. That means it should be studied on your own. That means everything will be asked from institute material. Not a single question will be posted from other sources. Everything will be asked from your institute material because it's an elective paper. You are supposed to read it on your own. That means question paper will be based on the institute material. So I don't want to take any risk. That's why I have not excluded any content. In fact, I have added some content from 2012 syllabus. SPM was for 100 marks in 2012 syllabus. In 2016 and later on it became for 50, it converted into 50 marks. So if there is any disconnectivity, I have taken some content from 2012 syllabus. So there will be some general sentences which I think there is no need of any explanation, especially for you students. Am I clear? If you were of a CA foundation level or CMA foundation level, I would have explained line by line. But here, if there is general sentence, we'll simply go over it. Okay. So who has a student mic? Please read it, my dear.
Basically, for a single firm,
question.
Write the approaches for measurement of productivity and efficiency in performance management.
Next, Nana.
Basically, for a single firm that produces one output using a single input, that ratio of output to input is a measure of productivity level. In such a case, productivity is relatively.
When company is using a single input for producing single output, it becomes very easy to calculate productivity. Output divided by input. Next, Nana.
However, in the case of many outputs and many inputs in a production process, the measurement of an output-input ratio is different.
Okay.
Hence, many different approaches have been applied by many researchers to the measurement of productivity and
but
efficiency.
In reality, we will be using multiple inputs, and with these multiple inputs, we will be producing multiple output. Just take the example of car manufacturing. Just by changing some inputs, they will be producing wide variety of cars. So you will be using multiple inputs to produce multiple outputs. So there are different approaches for calculating productivity in this case, but basically we will stick on to total productivity. Am I clear, Nana? Total factor productivity. Next row.
Further, different approaches to productivity measurement given different numeric
As the approaches change, so do the ratio. As the approaches change, so do the ratio. If you are using one particular approach, automatically your ratio will change. Numerical values means nothing but ratios. Next, Nana.
Therefore, it is essential to select appropriate measurements for productivity and efficiency to avoid measurement basis in the results.
Measurement bias in the results. Bias means difference. Okay, difference nana. Right. Next.
Approaches to the measurement of productivity and efficiency.
Okay.
In general, productivity and efficiency can be measured on a partial factor or total factor
Factor
basis.
means, put it down, Nana. Factor means factors of, you will be comfortable as of now. But once the chapter is completed, the same question will be asked as a doubt to me. Okay, so write it down and don't expect me to write everything. You people are big enough or capable enough to write everything, whatever the things I tell you orally. So factor means factor of production. Partial means single, total means all. Partial means single, total means all. Read, my dear.
Partial factor productivity refers to the change in output owing to the change in the quantity of
So
one
which
input.
part of the sentence you need to underline? Change in output due to one input, very specifically given. Change in output owing to change in quantity of one input. Next, my dear.
Whereas total factor productivity refers to the change in output owing to change in the quantity of more than one input.
More than one input. More than one input means generally you have two types of input. One is labor, another one is capital. If there is only change in one input, it is partial factor. If there is change in both the inputs, it is total factor. When you use both the inputs, all types of inputs are covered in these two categories, labor as well as capital. Next, my dear. Example.
Examples of PFP or material yield.
Material yield means nothing but input output ratio. Yield output. Yield output. For how much quantity of input you are getting, how much quantity of output. They generally use this term material yield in standard costing. Material yield variance. Next, my dear.
Put per man hours.
Man hours is your input. For 1 hour, how much output we are producing. Generally, when it comes to efficiency of the labor, we measure in that regard only. If you are able to produce more in 1 hour compared to others, that means you are considered as efficient for productive. And if there is no wastage, that productive will be converted into efficiency. Okay. So in both the cases, we will be using only single input. Best example is this one on output per man hours. That means we are focusing only on hours. But when it comes to output, not only hours, there are several factors which affect the organization. But we are considering only hours. Next, Nana.
A comprehensive example of TFP is return on investment or overall profitability.
Return on investment. How much amount you have invested and what is the return you got. Can also be called as overall profitability. Now, this can be divided into two parts, which is given in the continuing sentence. Read it, my dear.
Which can be broken up into several parts through product profitability and capital turnover.
Operating
ratio.
income, non-operating income. Product profitability. In simple terms, operating income. Now, it is not the only income to the organization. There may be some non-operating income. Isn't it, Nana? That is interest on capital. Interest on capital. If you add all these things, then you will get overall profitability. Am I clear? That means you are using different bases or different inputs. That's why we are calling it as total factor productivity. Next, Nana.
Limitation of partial factor productivity.
What is the limitation? We all know the limitations. Generalized content, Nana. In real world, are we using single input or we are using all the inputs? So using partial factor productivity is not at all apt or correct. Continue, my dear.
In general, in an industrial context, goods and services are produced by a combination of many factors or inputs.
In general, to produce any type of good or service, we use all the factors of product. Industrial context means in general. From industrial point of view, industry point of view. Next, my dear.
The output of goods and services cannot be used as a measure of productivity of any one of the inputs.
Next.
The output is only a measure of joint power of inputs to achieve
Very
results.
clearly given. You can produce output only when you use all the factors together. You simply can't define the relationship between output and one particular input. But you can define the relationship between output and all the factors of product or all inputs together. Next, my dear.
This is the main disadvantage of measuring productivity and efficiency using the PFP approach.
PFP, Provident Fund approach, isn't it? Partial factor productivity approach. Are Rayadra Babu ఎవరన్నా చెప్పాడు కదా అని వరుసగా టపా టపా నెక్స్ట్ నానా
To overcome this shortcoming of PFP, TFP has been developed.
Earlier, experts were using PFP, partial factor. Now they shifted to total factor. Next, Nana.
TFP measures overall productivity and efficiency by considering all inputs and all outputs in the production process.
Next.
With full technical efficiency, producing maximum potential output for the allocated inputs.
When it comes to efficiencies, how many efficiencies we have? Third row, second person. Have you understood the question? When it comes to efficiency, how many types of efficiency we have? In the last class, I have taken an example. I have 5,000 rupees. Now I can spend this money either on my beloved friend or for the... Were you there in the last class? Yes. Next girl. Have you understood the question? How many types of efficiencies we have? Please sit down, Nana. Technical efficiency and allocative. So you know the answer, but unfortunately unable to link up that answer to the question. There's a problem. Or you need time to recollect it. Not there in the class. You studied on your own. That's why you were able to remember. Others, they were in the classroom, but unable to recollect it. Yes. Now don't come up with excuses that we are grown up enough, so don't ask us questions. I will ask questions. As the day go by, you people are growing as well as I am also. So the gap should remain the same. So I should not hesitate in asking you the questions. My agenda is not to insult you or not to blame you, Nana. At least you should be able to recollect something or to understand to what extent you have understood it. If you are unable to reproduce it as it is, at least you should be able to give some sort of answer to me in the form of example or whatever the case may be. So there are two types of efficiency. Allocative and which one comes first? I don't know. You need to confirm it. Which one comes first? Allocative means distribution. Allocation. Technical. Utilization. Technical means utilization. When it comes to efficiency, we are concerned about both these, Nana. You may be allocatively efficient, but technically you may be, in the last class I have taken the example, you have spent it well. Instead of spending on your friend, you have spent it for examination, but unfortunately failed to utilize the opportunity properly. So allocatively you are efficient, but technically you are inefficient. Or it can go other way around also. So when it comes to company, it focuses on both types of efficiency. It needs both the efficiencies, Nana, both allocative as well as technical, because resources are scarce. Here resources means money, capital as well as labor. Both are scarce. So management should focus on how to allocate labor and money and how to get maximum out of that money and maximum out of that labor. Utilization. Then only the company will be able to produce maximum with minimum cost. If you are using a chartered accountant for cash bookkeeping, is it a optimum utilization or misutilization? He should be used for decision making work. So you have allocated chartered accountant to finance department, but unfortunately you are not using for decision making or finance work, you are using him for accounting work. There's a difference between finance and accounting work. A professional should be used for finance work, decision making, from weight, source of funds, investment of funds. Instead of using for that, you are using him for cash bookkeeping, preparation of ledgers. You have allocated right person to right department, allocatively efficient. But when it comes to technical efficiency, you are not utilizing him properly. Okay, right, Nana. Question number 7. Explain the statement productivity does not necessarily mean. I think we have already covered it. In the last class, I have given an example. In terms of productivity, A is more than B. But since the wastage of A is more than B, B is efficient. I hope you people remember, Nana. So, Producing more does not mean that I have maintained the quality. Out of the quantity that I have produced, 20% is damaged. In 10 hours, I have produced 100 units. Other employee, in 10 hours, he has produced 80 units. But after quality control, the management realized that out of my 100 units, 30 are damaged. But out of his 80 units, only 5 are damaged. So in terms of productivity, I may be high, but in terms of efficiency, I am low. Same thing is given here also. And they have used some other different meaning, Nana. Some other example. Okay, right. So question number 7. Pass on the mic, my dear. Next girl. Read it, Nana.
Explain the statement. Productivity doesn't necessarily means being efficient.
Being efficient. Read it, Nana.
It is important to note that being productive doesn't necessarily means being efficient.
Okay.
For example, if a window cleaner cleans 20 windows in the first week and 25 windows in the second week, then he is more productive in the second week. In the simple analogy, it is assumed that he is scheduled to work a standard 40 hours a week, but a matter of quality of work and all other issues are kept abeyance in the analogy. For example,
Abeyance means absent, not considered. Only we are focusing on one thing. How many windows he has cleaned in 40 hours. Now out of these windows he has cleaned, but how many windows got damaged? That is not covered. That means quality is completely ignored while calculating productivity. Abeyance means absent. This aspect is absent when it comes to measurement of measurement of productivity, Nana. Right, next round.
for example, the quality of his cleaning.
Okay.
It is in the parlance that the issue of efficiency can be introduced, as it is often said that being productive doesn't mean being efficient.
In these lines, balance means from the above concept, we can clearly explain that productivity and efficiency are not one and the same. In simple terms, productivity focus on quantity, efficiency focus on quantity and quality. So efficiency is one step above productivity. That's why we are concerned about efficiency, not productivity. Next, Anna.
For all practical purpose, the accepted definition of efficiency is achieving maximum productivity with minimum wasted effort or expenses.
With minimum wastage. That is a key point here. If there is minimum wastage, that means you are producing goods of good quality. Okay. Thus,
efficiency is related to maintaining the quality of work and focuses less on mere increase of output.
Mere increase of output. Mere increase of output. No need to worry about నాకు తెలియదు స్పెల్లింగ్ మిస్టేక్స్ నేను చేస్తూ ఉంటా. అంగారేం పడద్దు. అందరూ చూస్తూ ఉంటారు. నేను చేస్తూ ఉంటా మిస్టేక్స్ రా. చేయమంటావా? కావాలని చేస్తా ఏముంది దానిలో? మా గురుగారు చేసేవాళ్ళు కావాలని మిస్టేక్. Just to give confidence to the opposite person. Being a faculty, when he can commit mistakes, then I should not be ashamed of committing any mistakes or not knowing anything. అన్నీ తెలియని రూల్ లేదు కదా. సో మీర్ నానాది మీర్ అంటే ఇక్కడ the meaning here is that we not only focus on output but also on quality, whereas when it comes to productivity we focus only on output. Difference between productivity and efficiency. Aspects where efficiency differs from productivity. This part is important. All the definitions or different parts are important either from short questions point of view or from MCQ point of view. Okay, let us read it, Nana. First one.
Aspects where efficiency differs from productivity.
In productivity, I am only concerned about units. For 1 unit of input, how many units of? What about cost? That is not at all covered in efficiency. Productivity. Not covered in productivity. In productivity, we are only concerned about quantity. For 1 kg of input, how many kgs of out? But the cost aspect is not covered in productivity. Read it, Nana.
Cost as an input. Measure of productivity doesn't account for the cost incurred in the process of output maximization. Though it is the most important factor.
It is the most important factor because every organization, see, price is not in my control, so obviously profit will not be in my control. The only thing that is in my control is cost. So every organization wants to produce maximum output from minimum cost. This point you have learnt in CA Foundation, Theory of Production chapter. And that producer is called as rational producer. A producer is said to be rational when he tries to achieve maximum output from minimum cost. Even one point is missing, then that he will be called as irrational. When it comes to consumer maximum satisfaction from minimum expenditure. But when it comes to producer, he wants to produce maximum output from minimum. Now you may argue, sir, why can't he think about selling price? Selling price is generally determined by market. So it is not in his control. So only thing that is in his control is cost. And he wants to minimize cost or maximize cost. So cost plays a very important role when it comes to production. Unfortunately, the same thing is ignored while calculating productivity. Next, Nana.
The simple connotation of productivity is maximization of output related to the input.
Connotation means meaning. Meaning, Nana. Okay. But in this simplicity,
the issue of cost is ignored.
Already explained it. Next, Nana.
The measure of efficiency considers the cost of securing the input. Thus, an efficient mindset may consider the issue of outsourcing so that cost is reduced. Quality of the output is ensured, and this will lead the organization to an efficient production system.
That means what? Entire decision revolves around cost. Whether to produce or give it to outsiders, that depends on cost. So what management will do, Nana? It will calculate how much cost it will incur for producing the output. And if the same work is given to outsiders, how much cost we will incur. Wherever it is less, we will take that appropriate decision. So the entire decision revolves around what, Nana? Quantity or cost? Cost. That's what we do in marginal costing. Make or buy decision. Make or buy decision. Wherever your cost is lower, obviously your contribution will be higher. When it comes to make or buy decision, we focus on variable cost. Because fixed cost anyway, you have to incur it, isn't it? In marginal cost, most of the things revolve around variable cost. Here also same thing. So when it comes to decision making, the management focuses on cost. So it will calculate, if we take up production activity, what is the cost incurred by us? And the same work is given to outsiders on contract, what is the cost incurred by us? Wherever it is lower, Nana, we will take that particular decision. That is the advantage to the management if it focuses on efficiency. Because in efficiency, we not only consider quantity, but also the cost. Next, Nana.
Quality and quantity as output.
Okay.
In commerce, there is a long-standing debate between quality and quantity.
Long-standing debate. So conflict between quantity and quality. Some argue that quantity is more important. Some argue that quality is more important. Depending on the situation, the management has to take a decision. Example, at the time of COVID, which one is more important? Vaccines. In COVID, when it comes to vaccines, which one was more important? Quantity or quality? That's why vaccines efficacy was only 60%. Yet, the governments issued vaccines to everyone because something is better than nothing. If you want to wait till you get 100% efficacy of vaccines, Nana, you will not get vaccine within a span of 6 months or 7 months. You have to wait for 5 to 6 years. So in that situation, quantity played a very important role. But it may not be true in all the cases. In some situations, quality plays a very important role. In some situations, quantity plays a very important role. So there's always a conflict between opinions. Some focuses on quantity, some focuses on quality. It's up to the management to decide which one is important. Because at the end of the day, who is going to gain? Management. Who is going to suffer? Management. So management is the one who needs to decide whether to focus on quantity or quality. There is a huge demand for the product. And people are willing to buy whatever the quality you are going to offer. So obviously, we'll focus on quantity, not the packing, etc., etc. You want to focus on quantity. But there is a heavy competition, and in this heavy competition, there are several companies who are producing and supplying same type of product. So in such a case, we want to focus on quality. What sort of quality, superior quality you are offering compared to your competitors? There is always a debate between these two. It's up to the management to decide which one is more important. Am I clear? Next.
In efficiency, quality is prioritized. While in productivity, quantity is prioritized.
As I said, next Nana.
The embedded logic is simple.
The logic is very simple. That is,
All organizations propose to maximize the input output ratio, but in order to do that, failing to attain quality standard is regarded as strategic failure.
strategic failure. As of now, it may not impact your organization, but in the long run, if you fail to provide right quality goods, your organization will be adversely affected. Because most of the business as of now is dependent on reputation, and reputation depends on your first impression that you are creating. First impression generally has a long lasting impression. So you need to focus on quality. Your first sale itself is a substandard sale, or quality is substandard. Next, later on, even though you supply much better quality, the people will be reluctant to buy it. Example, Tata Nano. It established an image in the mind of the people. Now, Tata company is thinking twice whether to come up with the same name for electric vehicles or not. There's a huge demand for urban electric vehicles. Urban electric vehicles means people generally who commute within the city in a day 30 or 40 kilometers maximum. Home to office, office to home. Now for that, nano type of car is very, very apt. Now I'm not saying the same design, but whenever I use the term nano, for everyone the same image will flash in front of them, right? Now company, we may come up with some other design, but they're thinking twice whether to use the same name or use different name. Because as soon as you use nano name, people already have some image in their mind. So no matter how good features I may be offering or how lower price I may be charging, people may not be willing to buy it. It may take some time to again gain the trust of the people. There is a kind of impression people have, and obviously it will affect the reputation. Businesses as of now run on reputations, and reputations depend on first impression. So companies generally want to offer good quality goods initially, because first impression will have a long lasting, will help in having a long lasting relationship with the customers. Am I clear? Same thing is given here now. All organizations propose to maximize input output ratio, but in order to do that, failing to attain quality standards is regarded as strategic failure. Initially, Tata Nano had a huge demand. Span of 3 years, the entire demand wiped out. Demand for nano car fell drastically. Initially 3 years there were huge demand for Tata Nano, but slowly people started identifying defects in nano. First of all, safety. Second, aesthetics or look. People started finding out mistakes now. Initially you will not have any problem. You will be able to survive in the organization, but in the long run, the car failed to meet the expectations of the people. That's a strategic failure, long-term failure. And you do business, you want to do business for a short period of time or long period of time. So strategic failure may be very, what we say, adverse for the entire organization. So you need to be very careful regarding that. Next, Nana.
Thus, productivity is important, but without considering efficiency, it is meaningless.
Next, Nana, refinement.
From the discussion made in point number A and B above, it is reasonable to
reduce that
the measure of efficiency is a refinement of the concept.
That's what I said, Nana. Efficiency is superior to productivity. So from A and B, we can conclude that yes, without productivity, we can't calculate efficiency. So efficiency is superior to or a next step of productivity now. So last question in this unit. Nana. When it comes to next unit, I don't think there is a need for explaining anything in that regard, because you people know what are financial statements. As I said, whenever we talk about performance, which performance we will consider? Financial performance. If someone asks us to see whether the company is performing well or not, the first thing that we will see is the financial. But our entire analysis, if we based on financial analysis, it will not at all be correct. Along with financial analysis, we need non-financial analysis also. What are those non-financial? That we will cover in the later parts now. But second unit is all about financial performance. When we talk about financial performance analysis, What we are going to analyze? Financial information. From where you will get this financial information? 3 statements as given by the Companies Act. Profit and loss or income statement, balance sheet and cash flow. Apart from these 3, you may have some other statement depending on the requirement of the organization. All those things are explained briefly there. Okay, let us complete the question now. Right. Question number 8.
Explain the term performance and how it is the product of efficiency.
You do one thing, Nana. I will wait for 5 minutes. So please go through that question and try to understand the question on your own. Then we'll start going through line by line. Right now, read it, my dear.
Explain the term performance and how it is the product of efficiency, utilization and productivity.
Okay.
The term performance is much bigger and inclusive concept. The term performance is derived from the word performen, which means to do.
Which means to do. That's what I have said in the first class. Performance means nothing but executing something, right? Meaning to do. While explaining the meaning of strategic performance management. For performance, I have explained it as execution. Isn't it? The same thing now. Next row.
It refers to the degree to which achievement is being or has been accomplished.
Degrees. Percentage, Nana. To what percentage you have achieved it? Nothing but fixing standards, measuring actuals, comparing actuals with to what extent you were able to accomplish the required performance or objective. Next, Nana.
Performance measurement as a traditional concept and is based on information derived from financial statements and is thus dependent on financial information.
Traditionally, when we talk about performance, it is measured using financial information. But in modern era, that alone is not sufficient. You may be profitable, but yet you may end up winding your company. Yes, you were profitable, but you may end up winding the company. Why? You fail to follow government rules and regulations. So from that point of view, you failed in performing. Your supply chain has failed. Unable to deliver. Yes, you were able to deliver goods. But because of supply chain problem, supply chain means either the problem of distributor or wholesaler or retailer. Even though you are producing good quality goods at reasonable prices, because of these 3 idiots, you are unable to deliver the goods on time to the customer. So automatically what customers will do, he will try to find another alternative. Whatever the goods that you have sold, in those goods you have earned profit, but unable to increase your sales. Why? Because of this problem. You may end up winding up your company. Every aspect should be considered when we talk about performance. Not only the financial, but also non-financial. You are earning profits, but labor were not happy with the work conditions. Safety standards or the work conditions. You are earning profits, but laborer were not happy with the work conditions. Obviously, your production will get hampered. And then you may end up winding your company. So when it comes to performance, we have to consider both financial as well as non-financial according to modern management approach. On a traditional approach, we used to simply focus on profits, financial aspect. That's it. Next, Nana.
It is of little use in improving the current financial performance of the organization.
It is of little use. As of now, this approach is of little use. Yes, it is useful, but not as much as it was in olden days. Now you need to consider financial as well as non-financial. Next, Nana.
In the business sector, performance is about improving all the factors that increase the profit, factors that reduce expenditure, increase income, and result in more output per unit input.
Next.
It is about how one maximizes the quality, scope, and timelines, waiting times of your service delivery while minimizing
Timeliness.
timeliness of your service delivery while minimizing the inputs that are required.
You are providing goods. See, there is a problem with Sony company in India. It's a very good product. But when it comes to servicing, it is very poor in servicing. I hope you understood the example now. Servicing also plays a very important. As of now, if someone is going to buy electrical item, the first thing they see is that whether service center is nearby available or not, and what sort of service they are providing. It should be available and service track record also. We need to see both the things. That's why even though there are several products in Amazon which are sold at very low price, still we buy branded items. Still we buy branded items at higher price. Why? Because we are worried about the post-sale service. The unbranded items may be much far better when it comes to performing compared to branded. But I don't want to take any type of risk. Because once I purchase it and there isn't damage and there is no service center available, if it is available but not responding properly, then it will cause me a huge headache, right? That's why I go for branded items. Same in case of mobile phones also. What of the features available in Samsung are available in some other phones at half the price of it. But we will be quite skeptic or we will hesitate while purchasing those new brand products. So company has to take all those things into consideration. Sony failed in that aspect only. Its product is number one product till we do not get any repair. Once you get any sort of complaint, it's better to buy a new TV rather than getting it repaired. Because they will come and take none, but when they are going to return it, we don't know. So it does not leave a good impression on the product. So providing services also plays a very important role. Next, Nana.
Ultimately, performance is about maximizing the amount of output energy from a system.
Okay, what is the maximum quantity of output that you can take from the given system? That is all about performance. Is it maximum? Yes. Then the organization should be happy. Next, Nana.
Therefore, of concepts of productivity and efficiency, add key linkages to this aspect of performance management.
So when we talk about performance, we consider productivity, efficiency. When we talk about efficiency, we obviously focus on allocation as well as utilization. So everything is covered when it comes to performance. Am I clear, Nana? That's it for the hour. Last 5 minutes. You people revise the entire content. Tomorrow I will start a new unit. Am I clear? Right now.